the American flag. I wanted anybody burns the American flag, go to jail based on freedom of speech, goes to jail.
Hey, very quickly, I'm going to start, because I'm such a failure as a YouTuber, I would ask you to subscribe to this program if you're not. If you just get served this content and then you consume my videos, and if you appreciate what I do, if I bring you value, please subscribe. It's free. Just click that subscribe button below this video on YouTube, or like and follow this page on Facebook, and share the content. I would appreciate it very much. On YouTube, we are knocking on the door of 1.5 million subscribers, and I need to do a better job of asking for that subscribe. So anyway, let's talk about this. Apparently, Brian Glenn, the boyfriend of Marjorie Taylor Greene, is now some kind of a policy advisor. He's a special aide and assistant to the President of the United States. Not really. But the morphine of his role as a member of the press is being kind of muddled. Yesterday in the Oval Office, Donald Trump held a little press conference after signing whatever nonsense he's signing, and he throws it to the press to ask questions. And Brian Glenn apparently is a member of the press. I guess the bar's pretty low these days for constitutional protection under the First Amendment for the free and fair press. But Brian Glenn launches into this weird thing about trans-Tifa flags. Apparently they don't understand that Antifa is anti-fascist. So trans-Tifa doesn't even make any sense, Brian. Wouldn't expect you to make sense, dipshit. But there's a concerted effort right now to squelch the free speech, to trample upon the free speech, to target the free speech of Americans all across the country who aren't sufficiently mournful of their martyr, Charlie Kirk, the racist Christian nationalist bigot. A detestable and reprehensible character in American history. He will be remembered as that. We won't forget the many quotes of Charlie Kirk about wanting to dismantle civil rights, and that the Civil Rights Act was a mistake, and that Martin Luther King Jr. was a horrible, awful person, and that black women don't have the cognitive brain processing power to have achieved anything on their own. They have to steal their positions from white men who are actually worthy. All of these are just quotes from Charlie Kirk. So if they make you uncomfortable, conservatives, if you think it's attacking Charlie Kirk just by using his words, that's on you. But in this moment in the Oval Office, Brian Glenn starts rambling about trans flags, the flag that represents a group of people that is historically, to call them marginalized isn't just getting it done. They are abused. They are at risk of not only suicide, but also harm from the likes of people like Charlie Kirk and Brian Glenn and Donald Trump. So he starts rambling about the trans flags and says that we need to crack down. He's giving this idea to Donald Trump, ideas that Donald Trump takes from Brian Glenn and runs with, that involved squelching people's free speech, violating the Constitution of the United States. And he says that a lot of people are threatened by the transgender flag because it means a lot of different negative things to people. Very specific, fantastic. It means a lot of different negative things. And then he just throws in the word violence for some reason at the end there. Watch this, and then watch Donald Trump kind of devolve into a weird flag burning rant that has nothing to do with the transgender flag whatsoever. And then we're going to get to Brian Glenn and the direction, the power that he actually has in putting ideas into Donald Trump's mind that he then runs with, violating people's constitutional rights and ending the longest standing single protest in American history against nuclear war that was started in 1981 that Donald Trump dismantled because of Marjorie Taylor Greene's fucking boyfriend, Brian Glenn. First, though, the trans flag nonsense.
I think she's a disgusting person.
And one more question, if I could. A lot of these, in recent of these kind of trans shooters that we've seen over the last couple incidents, this flag right here is up and down 14th Street. This is what would be a trans flag. A lot of people are very threatened by this flag. It means a lot of different negative things to people, violence. Would you be opposed to taking this flag down up and down the streets of DC?
Well, I wouldn't be. Then they'll sue and they'll get freedom of speech stuff, so that'll happen. But I would have no problem with it. I will say, and Steve might just mention this, Todd, you might mention it too, because we're putting out an order. Freedom of speech means you can burn the American flag, which I think is horrible. But I noticed something over the last little while. As you do this, you start noticing things that you wouldn't normally think. It really causes unrest and violence when they burn American flag. So the American flag, I wanted anybody burns the American flag, go to jail based on freedom of speech, goes to jail immediately. But the freedom of speech protected them, right? And that's been argued a couple of times. And it's one of those things. But you know what? Hasn't been argued, and we're going to be arguing it, I think, very soon. And that's the violence. They incite violence. So I saw it just yesterday, they burned the American flag, and people that were there were fine. And all of a sudden, they're going crazy, and there's fist fights. It wasn't in Memphis either. But I will say, it incites violence. And I think you just do the exact same thing. Don't use freedom of speech. Use the incitement of violence. I mean, it's really, you got to see, these people were going at it. And, you could burn other things and people just sit there, they fall asleep. You burn the American flag, and you're on both sides. But the level of violence I saw this flag burning cause was incredible. It was an incitement. So I hope you guys are going to be able to do that, Pam, right?
Well, there's also groups called Trans-Tifa. So perhaps if you can label them a domestic terrorist group, and in all reality, you could take that flag down because it would represent the Trans-Tifa.
I think you probably could.
They're not even being coy about their desire to violate people's free speech rights, sacred, protected rights under the Constitution of the United States. The same party that whined and cried during COVID that White House gave recommendations on what things should be allowed to proliferate are now in a full-out assault on the Constitution against your free speech rights. Burning a flag is political speech. If someone gets upset by it because they don't understand the Constitution, that's not on the person who burnt the flag. It doesn't incite violence. If it does indeed incite violence, the crime is the person who committed the violence, not the person who burned the piece of cloth with some stripes and some stars on it. As though this party has any moral authority on respect for the flag anyway. We got our Department of War secretary who's wearing it as clothing on the liner of his sport coat. He wears it as a pocket silk. So tell me again how they are the party that loves the flag with their fat fascist fucking president molesting the flag on stage, hugging and kissing it as though it's a young child that he lusts after. It continued. Brian Glenn gets another shot at asking a question, many shots at asking a question. And before he can even ask his question, Donald Trump says, "Is the blue tent removed? Is the blue tent, did the idea that you gave me, did we get rid of that for you?" And then we'll talk about exactly what this exchange is about afterward.
First of all, you've got to...
Did they take down the blue tent?
Yes, sir, they did. Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
I mean, hit me with a blue tent and nobody knew what he was talking about. We found out, right?
Found out, right.
It was gone the next day, and they had a lot of... That was not so easy. They had, that's a violent, radical left group. Okay, go ahead.
I got peppered with a lot of comments for doing that. They still have their First Amendment right, though.
I'm not...
You've got an amazing team behind you. You've done an awesome job for D.C.
Did you catch that? Well, they still have their right to free speech. Well, I'm not so sure about that, says Donald Trump. You're not so sure about the First Amendment of the Constitution, that Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion, or the abridgment of our freedom of speech? You're not so sure about it? Did you not, Donald Trump? Raise your right hand twice? What's it matter? An oath doesn't matter to Donald Trump. A solemn vow, an affirmation doesn't matter. He's a liar. This is what they're talking about. There's been a decades plural long vigil outside the White House that has to be manned 24/7 in order to be deemed a protest. They can't just leave the tent and leave it and go home. Otherwise, National Park Service, the Secret Service, can remove it. And so for 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, since 1981, a vigil against nuclear war, seems a pretty noble cause, right? Has stood outside the White House until Brian Glenn started whining about it, that it was an eyesore and a security risk for the White House. Hadn't been a risk since 1981 in my childhood. But apparently this new regime, this new fascist totalitarian nonsense is taking root, and the White House policy advisor, Brian Glenn, saw fit to have it removed. And Donald Trump, he does what he's told, I guess. This is from the USA Today. Trump ordered a peace vigil tent near the White House removed. A decades-long peace vigil near the White House was dismantled at President Donald Trump's direction in recent days. Trump hadn't been aware of the vigil until Real America's Voice correspondent Brian Glenn told him about it in an Oval Office exchange on September 5th. Officials partially dismantled the vigil on September 7th, the Washington Post reported. USA Today, reached out to the White House and the U.S. Park Police for comment. Trump later bragged about the action, calling it a tough one. "It's been there for many years," Trump said on September 8th. "We took it down. It came down very quickly." When he says it's a tough one, he doesn't mean it was a tough decision on whether to allow it to remain. He means it was a tough action. Big, bold man violating people's constitutional rights. Liberals' constitutional rights. They're not targeting conservatives. I got a host of stuff to talk about today, and all of it has the patina of what is to come, and it's not good. It is not good. I am at risk. You are at risk. Anybody who speaks out against this administration, anybody who's not sufficiently sad and mournful about the death of Charlie Kirk is at risk now. This is the America. This is the freedom that we have, the greatest country in the world. We are a failed state. We need to learn this so we don't repeat the same vile mistakes. And Donald Trump doesn't want us to learn. Well, he didn't learn. Donald Trump hadn't picked up a book since maybe junior high, maybe not even then. You may recognize this image. This is a photograph from 1863 of Peter Gordon in Louisiana, a former enslaved man who obviously lived for the rest of his days with the marks of his enslavement, with the proof of his systematic abuse and torture at the hands of his vile, sickening, white enslaver. Peter Gordon. The name of this image is The Scourged Back. This image is being removed by Donald Trump and the National Park Service because it's not sufficiently positive about America. Get a load of this headline from the Washington Post. This is the same thing that months ago when I started talking about the erasure of black contributions in this country, the contributions of black Americans. Black people for no pay. In fact, they were rewarded with abuse and murder and rape and torture. They built this country on their backs. By their stripes, this nation was built. And if it makes you feel uncomfortable because you're white and you're fragile, get the over yourself. It's a fact that even after slavery, there was convict leasing. Even after slavery, there was, under color of law, Jim Crow. Even after slavery, thousands upon thousands of black women and children were lynched, violently murdered, as crowds gathered to celebrate and remove parts of the dead body of the black person as a souvenir. And Donald Trump doesn't want any reminder of our evil, disgusting, reprehensible, abhorrent past as a nation. What's that if you don't teach your history, if you don't learn your history, if you don't remember your history, you're doomed to repeat it? Maybe that's the entire point. Get a load of this headline from the Washington Post. National Park to remove photo of enslaved man's scars. The Trump administration is ordering the removal of information on slavery at multiple national parks in an effort to scrub them of corrosive ideology. Remembering slavery is corrosive, not the reprehensible, torturous treatment of this human being. That's not what's corrosive ideology. Slavery itself is not corrosive ideology. White supremacy is not corrosive ideology to Donald Trump, who he himself is a white supremacist. It's remembering what was visited upon our black brothers and sisters in this country. That's what is corrosive. These fucking ghouls believe. The Trump administration has ordered the removal of signs and exhibits related to slavery at multiple national parks, according to 4 people familiar with the matter, including a historic photograph of a formerly enslaved man showing scars on his back. That is the aforementioned Peter Gordon. The individuals, who spoke on the condition of anonymity because they were not authorized to speak with the media, said the removals were in line with President Donald Trump's March executive order directing the Interior Department to eliminate information that reflects, quote, a corrosive ideology that disparages historic Americans. National Park Service officials are broadly interpreting that directive to apply to information on racism, sexism, slavery, gay rights, or persecution of indigenous people. Following Trump's order, Interior Department officials issued policies ordering agency employees to report any information, including signage and gift shop items, that might be out of compliance. Trump officials also launched an effort asking park visitors to report offending material, but they mostly received criticisms of the administration and praise for the parks. This is a culture of informing on one another. They want the employee report all violations to the dear leader's office. If you're a civilian in a national park and you see something that offends your white sensibilities, y'all, you must report it to the dear leader's office. The latest orders include removing information at Harper's Ferry National Historic Park in West Virginia. 2 people familiar with the matter said, where the abolitionist John Brown, hero John Brown, absolute badass John Brown, where John Brown led a raid seeking to arm slaves for a revolt. Staff have also been told that information at the president's house site in Philadelphia, where George Washington kept slaves, does not comply with the policy, according to a 3rd individual. Jonathan Zimmerman, a University of Pennsylvania professor who studies the history of education, said that this is the latest installment in the Trump administration's unprecedented interference with the nation's civic institutions, a campaign which also includes Trump's takeover of the Kennedy Center and attempts to pressure the Smithsonian. This represents an enormous increase in federal power and control over the things we learn, Zimmerman said, brought to you by the team that says education should be state and local, highlighting their disgusting hypocrisy. Now, One of the problems is that there are so many fascist enablers in our government. This next woman I'm getting ready to talk about is a National Park Service employee who has worked for the National Park Service for over a decade, so before Donald Trump. And now she's just spewing racist, hateful propaganda provided by the dear leader as though it's normal and reasonable and rational. Park Service spokesperson Rachel Paulitz said in a statement that all signage is under review. Quote, interpretive materials that disproportionately emphasize negative aspects of U.S. history or historical figures without acknowledging broader context or national progress can unintentionally distort understanding rather than enrich it. What's the broader national context, Miss Paulitz? Miss Rachel Paulitz? What is the broader context or national, what progress, what are we missing here? Can someone tell me what context is missing? That this man had to escape slavery to be free. He had to escape to be free. He was beaten and tortured for his trouble. What context? Final paragraph. At Harper's Ferry, staff flagged more than 30 signs, according to a person familiar with the matter and documents reviewed by the Post, that highlight information potentially in violation of Trump's policy. They include signs referring to racial discrimination and hostility of white people to people who were formerly enslaved. All of that is fact. All of that is a fact. White people in this country enslaved black people. White people in this country committed violence and torture and rape and murder against that same population of human beings. And we can't remember it without what? Talking about how great white people are? Look, I feel no guilt over this. I feel sadness that this happened in my country, but I don't carry with me white guilt. I don't even know what that is. What I carry with me is empathy for the condition of a population that has never been allowed to keep their head up, to keep their chin up, to generate intergenerational wealth and transfer that on to future generations. Where when they couldn't even buy homes, they couldn't even get mortgages because the places that they were allowed to buy homes were redlined and mortgage insurance wasn't provided. Like, it was a systemic effort on the part of white governed America to keep black people down. Brittany Page just did an interview with an author about the mother of methadone. And they talked about the history of even our drug policy in this country is predicated on racism, on which group of people might be out of their minds on drugs. Fiends for cocaine, the blacks. Marijuana, oh, Mexicans, oh, it's scary. Opium, oh, the Chinese. It is what it is. We need to learn this so we don't repeat the same vile mistakes. Donald Trump doesn't want us to learn. Well, he didn't learn. Donald Trump hadn't picked up a book since maybe junior high, maybe not even then. Probably was having somebody pay for to do his homework then, like he did in college. I'm not overreacting. For those of you who are, oh, come on, he's not erasing. This is just woke. Whoa, what are you talking about? This is white supremacy from the party that is the most effective and powerful white supremacy organization on the planet, the Republican Party, led by Donald Trump. Lieutenants in it, Stephen Miller and J.D. Vance and Pete Hegseth, Marco Rubio. Charlie KIRK, the late Charlie KIRK, was a lieutenant.
We are going to channel all of the anger that we have over the organized campaign that led to this assassination to uproot and dismantle these terrorist networks.
If you are not subscribed to this channel, I humbly ask that you consider, if you feel I'm worthy of your subscription, it's free to subscribe. You can also like and follow over on the Dollemore Daily Facebook page. I would appreciate your support very much in that way. You know what I get real tired of is being told I'm jumping to conclusions while people blindly give Donald Trump and this fascist regime the benefit of the doubt. Time and time and time and time again, I have to make a video like this saying, hey, remember the thing that I said just a few days ago, in this case, August 27th, based on something Stephen Miller said the night before on August 26th on Sean Hannity's show? When he said that the Democrat Party, this is his words, the Democrat Party is not a political party. It is a domestic extremist organization. I wanted to get the quote right. That's what he said. And I said, this is a precursor to labeling us terrorists. And then if they are able to officially label us terrorists, they can cut off funding. They can prosecute people who are members of the party. This is what they're going for. And a lot of people said, you're jumping to conclusions. You're just saber rattling. You're just being an alarmist. And let me say this about that very quickly. In this moment, when people get it wrong, and they get it wrong about important shit like this, they don't need to be trusted anymore. People who are both sidesing, acting as though the left has a problem with violence because the right is sad about Charlie Kirk, those people are not to be trusted. I don't know if they're undercover conservatives, but they're certainly carrying water for a conservative narrative. Pay attention to people who offer credibility, who back up the things they say with receipts. Obviously, I'm talking about myself as someone who backs things up with receipts. And that's what I'm going to do here. I want to remind you what Stephen Miller said on August 26th, just last month, about the Democratic Party, that we are a domestic extremist organization. Here is fewer than 30 seconds of this goblin lying and hate-mongering about the political opposition.
The Democrat Party does not fight for, care about, or represent American citizens. It is an entity devoted exclusively to the defense of hardened criminals, gangbangers, and illegal alien killers and terrorists. The Democrat Party is not a political party. It is a domestic extremist organization.
So on the 27th, I did a video, the title of which, if you want to go watch it, you could test the veracity of my statements then against what I'm saying now. Stephen Miller announced his plan to designate Democratic Party a terrorist organization. And people said, you're jumping to conclusions. People who are tripping all over themselves to give Donald Trump and these fascists the benefit of the doubt. Stop doing that. Don't do that. It only offers them credibility. It offers them aid and comfort, and we should not be doing that. Last night, yesterday, apparently, the vice president of the United States hosted Charlie Kirk's podcast and had, I don't know if Stephen Miller was the co-host, these two podcasters, or just a guest. But Stephen Miller doubled down on the remarks from the August 26th clip that you just heard. And he's morphed it into now, not just domestic extremist organization. Now he's talking about us and our actions as terrorism. Watch this, and then let's analyze some of the things he says on the other side.
You know, what emotions I'm feeling right now, this is something people say, I mean, you kind of know the answer. There's incredible sadness, but there's incredible anger. And the thing about anger is that unfocused anger or blind rage is not a productive emotion.
Right.
But focused anger, righteous anger, directed for a just cause is one of the most important agents of change in human history.
Charlie showed that. Amen.
And we are going to channel all of the anger that we have over the organized campaign that led to this assassination to uproot and dismantle these terrorist networks. So let me explain a little bit what that means. So,
You've got 30 seconds, so be quick, Stephen.
The organized doxing campaigns, the organized riots, the organized street violence, the organized campaigns of dehumanization, vilification, posting people's addresses, combining that with messaging that's designed to trigger and incite violence, and the actual organized cells that carry out and facilitate the violence. It is a vast domestic terror movement. And with God as my witness, we are going to use every resource we have at the Department of Justice, Homeland Security, and throughout this government to identify, disrupt, dismantle, and destroy these networks and make America safe again for the American people. It will happen, and we will do it in Charlie's name.
Thank you, Stephen. Don't go away. I'll be joined by a guest of Friends just in a few seconds.
What is he talking about? Again, the nebulous, vague theys and the organized campaign that led to this assassination. And they're going to channel their anger to dismantle and uproot these terrorist networks. By all accounts, the young man who killed Charlie Kirk was a conservative, raised by MAGA, raised with guns just filling the home, a bloodlust for weaponry. This wasn't some Antifa super soldier. Doesn't exist anyway. This was a kid raised in a conservative home. We don't know yet the motives. We don't yet know the motives. But they know. They know so much that they are going to uproot, dismantle these terrorist networks. What networks, Stephen Miller? Notice they never name anyone. They never say anything with any specificity whatsoever because there is no organized campaign that led to Charlie Kirk's assassination. If you mean repeating quotes of Charlie Kirk, I guess that's a campaign against Charlie Kirk to tell the truth about what he believed. The racist, Christian nationalist bigot, Charlie Kirk. Yeah, I guess so. But there is no terrorist network. And that is the next iteration of this. That's where the natural evolution of them saying that if you're a member of the Democratic Party, you're a member of a domestic extremist organization is to label it a terrorist organization. Stop it from being able to fundraise, which means candidates can't run for office, which means we have a one-party nation like China, like Russia, like any other dictatorial, despotic regime across the globe. Donald Trump admires Kim Jong-un and Xi Jinping because they rule their people with an iron fist. How many times has he said that? With a glint in his eye. And they're planning it in public now. So I'm not jumping to conclusions. I'm also not giving them the benefit of the doubt. They want to end your right to free speech. They want to punish businesses who don't fire their employees who aren't sufficiently mournful of Charlie Kirk. I'm not sad about Charlie Kirk being dead. I mean, he was a racist. He was a bigot. He was a hateful troll in life. I'm sad at the state of our country. I am mournful that this is where we are, that so many disparate groups didn't see the writing on the wall, didn't see the dangers posed by Donald Trump and the cadre of assholes and fascists around him who are absolutely willing to end the Constitution, to stamp out our protected natural rights. At least if you're a Democrat, at least if you're a liberal or a leftist, not if you're a conservative. You can say the most hateful shit in the world and you'll be protected. You'll be celebrated even like Charlie Kirk, who's now being treated like some kind of a martyr for free speech as they seek to stamp out free speech in the name of the free speech warrior. Gotcha. This is just the beginning. Two things. I'm not an alarmist. I'm telling you the facts. I'm bringing you the receipts. I'm making an explanation for my argument. and stop giving people the benefit of the doubt. Stop giving these people the benefit of the doubt. And any creator out there who's doing so, stop engaging with them. Stop taking them seriously. We're in a fight for our nation right now. The very soul of our country, the continuation of our constitutional republic hangs in the balance. And it's time to engage with those ideas. It's time to lend your support and your eyeballs and your brain to people who are calling it like it is. And I hope I'm one of those people. You can comment below this video wherever you're watching it. You can also call the voicemail line. Leave me a brief voicemail, please. Brief, 714-576-4054. And of course, as always, you can email me daily@dollemore.com. I love and appreciate you very much.
We will absolutely target you, go after you, if you are targeting anyone with hate speech.
I want to share with you first a Charlie Kirk tweet. Look, I'm as tired of you as you. I'm as tired of talking about Charlie Kirk and the situation that we presently find ourselves in as you are from hearing it. And actually, if you're that tired of it, you're probably not even here. I'm talking to somebody who didn't click on the video. So what are you going to do? But Charlie Kirk lived his life. He was a hypocrite, just like any other Republican who cherry-picked. And one day he's for releasing the Epstein files fully, and then the next he's not, and then the next he was. He was fully for unrestricted, unfettered free speech, absolute right to free speech. You can say whatever you want, even hate speech, which we're going to get to, until there were liberals who were speaking out, and then he wanted to, stifle their free speech, squelch their free speech, restrict their free speech. He was a hypocrite and a liar and a racist and a bigot, just like the rest of Republicans. He was nothing special or different than any of these people. Okay? He tweeted this: hate speech does not exist legally in America. There's ugly speech, there's gross speech, there's evil speech, and all of it is protected by the First Amendment. Keep America free. This is interesting because now that he is a martyr in conservative circles for free speech, they are trying to restrict your free speech, my free speech. At the very least, they want to strike fear into people who are not sufficiently mournful at the death of the racist, Christian nationalist bigot, Charlie Kirk. I got 2 clips here from Pam Bondi, a remarkable set of clips that they are now going to target. She says target, and she puts stink on it too. We're going to target you if you speak out against Charlie Kirk. If you're not sufficiently mournful or sad or whatever about Charlie Kirk's death, if you say things that are distasteful, we're going to target you. Even though political speech, it's the distasteful things, it's the gross things, like Charlie Kirk said. Those should be protected more than anything else. I'm not harming anyone if I say something negative about Charlie Kirk. I'm not harming anyone. Nobody's rights are being usurped if I won't do it because I don't feel this way, if I celebrate the death of Charlie Kirk. No one is harming anyone with their celebrations. Yeah, it's distasteful, yes. But it's not against the law. It's protected, in fact, by the First Amendment of the Constitution of the United States. Remember, Congress shall make no law. And when you're a representative of this government, the DOJ, the Attorney General of these United States, you are a representative of the government, of especially the Constitution of the United States, which, by the way, Pam, little Pam, includes the First Amendment. Get a load of this. Remembering the Charlie Kirk tweet, remember, and all of it is protected by the First Amendment. Keep America free, he said. Remember that, keep that tweet in mind as you watch these clips from Pam Bondi, who's trying to martyr Charlie Kirk by targeting leftists and liberals.
There's free speech and then there's hate speech. And there is no place, especially now, especially after what happened to Charlie, in our society.
Do you see more law enforcement going after these groups who are using hate speech and putting cuffs on people, so we show them that some action is better than no action.
We will absolutely target you, go after you, if you are targeting anyone with hate speech, anything. And that's across the aisle.
Being happy that Charlie Kirk is dead, as distasteful as it is, isn't hate speech. To the Republican Party, the Westboro Baptist Church should be able to go out there and say God hates slurs for gays. But if you say Charlie Kirk deserved to die, which I don't believe and would never say, but that is hate speech. Westboro Baptist Church, not so much. That's hate speech. If you call someone the N-word on Twitter and in real life, that's not hate speech, but not being sad about Charlie Kirk is hate speech. She says, by the way, on Katie Miller's show, that's the wife of Stephen Miller, I guess some would portend the girlfriend of Elon Musk and the wife of Stephen Miller. They got a weird thing going on, some think. It's not the only thing we heard from Pam Bondi yesterday. She also said this about private companies and who they are keeping employed. Because there was an incident at an Office Depot in Kalamazoo, Michigan, where someone went in to print posters for a vigil for Charlie Kirk, and the employee said, "That's political propaganda. I'm not printing that." They were subsequently dismissed, fired by Office Depot. I'll let you do with that information as you will, whether you choose to shop there, to darken their door. I won't be giving them any of my money. But here is Pam Bondi, not just talking about targeting, but telling private employers who they should and should not employ.
That's horrific. It's free speech, but you shouldn't be employed anywhere if you're going to say that. And employers, you have an obligation to get rid of people. You need to look at people who are saying horrible things, and they shouldn't be working with you. Businesses cannot discriminate. If you want to go in and print posters with Charlie's pictures on them for a vigil, you have to let them do that. We can prosecute you for that. I have Harmeet Dillon right now in our civil rights unit looking at that immediately, that Office Depot had done that. We're looking at that.
Get rid of them, she says. And employers, you have an obligation, says the Attorney General of the Department of Justice in these United States. You have an obligation to get rid of people who aren't sad about Charlie Kirk. You need to look at people and what they're saying, these horrible things. What horrible things? And they shouldn't be working with you. Businesses cannot discriminate. If you want to go and print posters with Charlie's pictures on them for a vigil, you have to let them do that. The same party that thinks it's okay for a business that provides public accommodation to not bake a cake for two men who want to get married, that's his right. That's his free speech right. That's the same party that thinks employees should be fired for choosing not to print vigils for a racist Christian nationalist bigot who espoused hate. The last words of his mouth were racist hate. And if you're unfamiliar with the case that she's talking about here, giving direction to private employers from the government, this is from WWMT, I believe is the affiliate in Kalamazoo, talking about James Asher, the young Republican, the little fascist in training, who started this entire controversy.
Because of an incident at the Office Depot in Portage. Good evening, I'm Princess Janae Steverson. It's after an employee refused to print a poster for a Charlie Kirk prayer vigil. And tonight, we're now hearing more from the customer involved in the incident. The video has been circulating online with now more than 1 million views, and it's sparking conversations on not just Office Depot's actions, but free speech itself. The employee in the video claims the poster is political propaganda, but the customer says that refusal itself is political discrimination. News Channel 3's Colin Roos has more after sitting down with that individual.
This is a culture thing. This is a sickness in our society. Higher, better.
This is the poster intended to be printed for Friday's Charlie Kirk Memorial at Bronson Park, showing a picture of the murdered political activist and the years of his life. Vigil organizer and Kalamazoo Young Republicans member James Asher said he sent in the print Friday to the Office Depot on Southwest Edge.
15 minutes before it's supposed to start, they give me a call and they're like, yeah, our printer person just looked at who it's for and they're not going to do it.
That's when he and a friend decided to go there in person. The video shows Asher speaking to an employee identifying herself as a manager, explaining the event was meant for prayer.
So they say they don't print political propaganda. So this is somebody that passed away a couple years ago.
That's political propaganda.
According to Asher, after the end of the video, the Office Depot employees told him they would call the police on him, which didn't end up happening. And he says a local FedEx ended up printing the poster for free.
These are how people present themselves even when they're on camera. Imagine how they present themselves when they're not on camera.
Office Depot issued a response to the incident, calling the associate's actions, quote, unacceptable and insensitive, and that the manager no longer worked for the company. The clip sparked conversation on our News Channel 3 Facebook page, with some feeling the employees should have printed the poster, while others stated the company had the right to refuse.
I gave them a call back and I told them, I was like, hey, this is about to be a really big situation. I wasn't trying to be that person, but the bigger idea was that I know that's absolutely unacceptable.
Asher said he hopes the video makes customers think about where they shop, but hopes the attention is returned to the loss suffered by Kirk's family.
We need to stand up for what we believe in with courage and conviction, and I believe that's what Charlie Kirk taught my generation to do.
In Kalamazoo, I'm Colin Roos.
We need to stand up for what we believe in with courage and conviction, he says, and I believe that's what Charlie Kirk taught my generation to do. Is that, James Asher, what Charlie Kirk taught your generation? When he said, happening all the time in urban America, prowling blacks go around for fun to go target white people. That's a fact. It's happening more and more. Was that him teaching your generation courage and conviction? If I see a black pilot, I'm going to be like, boy, I hope he's qualified, said Charlie Kirk. Courage and conviction. Black women, speaking about black women here, they're coming out and they're saying, I'm only here because of affirmative action. Yeah, we know, Charlie Kirk said. You do not have the brain processing power to otherwise be taken really seriously. You had to go steal a white person's slot to be taken somewhat seriously, said Charlie Kirk, the racist white nationalist bigot. Teaching this child's generation, James Asher, to stand up for what he believes in with courage and conviction. We made a really huge mistake when we passed the Civil Rights Act in the mid-'60s, said Charlie Kirk. MLK was awful. He was not a good person. He said one good thing he actually didn't believe, said Charlie Kirk. You're an abomination to God, he told transgender people. Courage and conviction, James Asher. I wouldn't print vigil posters for Charlie Kirk. Does that make me practicing hate speech, Pam Bondi? Are you going to target me, Pam Bondi? I'm certain you know where I am, Pam Bondi. Department of Justice, the FBI. Is that hate speech or is that protected speech under the Constitution of the United States, a document to which I rose my right hand on multiple occasions in my life and swore to support and defend against all enemies, foreign and domestic. You, Pam Bondi, and your boss, Pam Bondi, Donald Trump, are domestic threats to this Constitution on a daily basis.
I'm not familiar. The
Minnesota House Speaker, a Democrat, who was assassinated this summer.
Well, if the governor had asked me to do that, I would have done that.
They're not even trying to hide their vile hypocrisy. Donald Trump yesterday in the Oval Office was asked by a journalist about, do you think it would have been a good idea? Do you think it would have been fitting, she said, to lower the flags to half-staff after the assassination of Melissa Hortman? And Donald Trump, he's who? I'm not familiar with who. Our cognitively diminished moron in chief acted like he didn't know who she was talking about. And then blamed it on Tim Walz that he did not lower the flags to half-staff. The reason Donald Trump didn't lower the flags to half-staff is because she was a Democrat. She wasn't worthy of honoring her contributions to our democracy because she was a Democrat. She was assassinated at the hands of a right-wing, frothing, violent evangelical missionary pastor, a self-described Trump supporter. But it's only the left that's violent. We can only pay attention to left-wing violence. They never point to any specific examples of left-wing violence. I'll have you note that. I'll have you pay attention to that. It's always just nebulous. They, the organized campaigns, they never say which things. Even Donald Trump, the guy who took a shot at Donald Trump, was a registered Republican, a Republican voter. The right wing has a monopoly almost on political violence. And it's getting worse and worse and worse. As literal Nazis march through the streets of Huntington Beach, California, with a big vigil poster of Charlie Kirk celebrating his legacy. Nazis are celebrating the legacy of Charlie Kirk. I'll tell you who, when I'm dead, won't be celebrating my legacy. It's fucking Nazis. It should tell you everything you need to know about who he was, what he believed, the ideas that he espoused, by who his allies are, by who in his death are coming to venerate him. It's Nazis. Get a load of this moment from the Oval Office where Donald Trump feigns to not know who she was and then blamed Tim Walz for the flags not going to half-staff.
On Charlie Kirk, in retrospect, given all of the moving ways that this White House has paid tribute to Charlie Kirk,
right,
do you think it would have been fitting to lower the flags to half-staff when Melissa Hortman, the Minnesota House Speaker, was gunned down by an assassin as well?
I'm not familiar. Oh, who?
The Minnesota House Speaker, a Democrat, who was assassinated this summer.
Well, if the governor had asked me to do that, I would have done that. But the governor of Minnesota didn't ask me. I didn't. I wouldn't have thought of that, but I would have if somebody had asked me. People make requests for the lowering of the flag, and oftentimes you have to say no because it would be a lot of lowering. The flag would never be up. Had the governor of Minnesota asked me to do that, I would have done that gladly.
And given the killing of Melissa Hortman, the attack on Paul Pelosi, the attack on Gabby Giffords, the attack on the Pennsylvania governor's mansion, why make the case that violence is only on one side? It seems to be taking.
I didn't say it's on one side, but I say the radical left causes tremendous violence, and they seem to do it in a bigger way. But the radical left really is caused a lot of problems for this country. I really think they hate our country. Okay, yeah, please.
Radical left, tremendous violence. No examples. Never an example. They want to blame trans people. There's been tens of thousands of mass shootings in this country. Tens of thousands. And maybe five, were committed by unhinged trans people. Because not all trans people are saints, just like not all white men are saints. People are people. You got bad people, you got good people. Being trans wasn't a predication of the violence. It's having something wrong with them that does. Same with the guy who took a shot at Donald Trump. Same with the kid, the young man who killed Charlie Kirk. They're not out in force against white men who are wildly disproportionate committers of mass shootings. When you hear of a mass shooting, in your head, you know this is true. You're like, I wonder who it is. I wonder why he did it. You just naturally know it's a white man. It's a white boy. There's no studies to try to figure that out. In fact, with Republicans, it's we need the death penalty, kill them all. And then they find out it's a white man. Oh, we need to pray for him. Charlie would have wanted us to pray for his immortal soul. Nancy Mace. So I want to remind you of this. Remember, in the wake of the assassination of Melissa Hortman and her husband, and the attempted assassination of 2 other Democrats, that Donald Trump was asked about this, asked about, are you going to call Tim Walz? And he says, why waste my time? Just like he just said, I wouldn't have thought of that. I just wouldn't even have thought to honor the legacy and the contributions to our democracy by Melissa Hortman and her husband. I wouldn't even have thought of that. I have to be told by someone that it's something we should do. We can't lower the flag all the time because it would just never be up. Except for Charlie Kirk, apparently. Never served his country. Never was in the military. Yet we're honoring him like he's a celebrated war hero. By we, I mean the government of the United States of America, not we. Watch this and remember this moment when you stacked upon the clip you just watched. This tells you what's in Donald Trump's heart.
On Minnesota, there were a lot of horrific details that came out today about the suspect who's been charged there. Have you called the governor yet or been able to speak to any of them?
I don't really call him. He appointed this guy to a position. I think the governor of Minnesota is so whacked out. I'm not calling him. Why would I call him? I could call him and say, hi, how you doing? The guy doesn't have a clue. He's a mess. So, I could be nice and call him, but why waste time?
I'm not calling him. He's a mess. I could be nice and call him, but why waste time? For Donald Trump, it would have been a waste of his time to call the governor of Minnesota, the friend of the just recently assassinated Melissa Hortman. It would have been a waste of Donald Trump's time to offer condolences, concern, empathy, compassion. Because why is it not obvious by now? Melissa Hortman is a Democrat. Tim Walz is a Democrat. And Donald Trump is a fascist Republican, a white supremacist, a hateful, goblin-like ghoul who will go down in history as just that.
The fact of the matter is the both sides argument not only doesn't fly, we don't care. We don't care about your both sides argument. That shit is dead.
Yeah, so speaking of absolute disregard for the assassination of Democrats just a few months ago, of Melissa Hortman and her husband, and the attempted assassination of other Democrats in Minnesota who died at the hands of a conservative, self-described Trump supporter who was a right-wing radical missionary pastor who hated gay people, who hated trans people. A wild, insane bigot. That's who the alleged shooter is. Vance Belter, you'll remember. Greg Gutfeld yesterday, these people have just lost the plot. They're just absolute haters and ghouls. Greg Gutfeld yesterday on their little show, The Five, was talking about Melissa Hortman or about the assassination of Charlie Kirk. And Jessica Tarloff pipes in. She's like, hey, what about Melissa Hortman, though? And he flips out. He goes apoplectic rage mode on her and is, I don't care. You didn't even know her name before it happened. So apparently she's not important because she wasn't on a national stage, because she wasn't at the tip of everyone's tongue in conversation based on all of the vile, racist, homophobic, Islamophobic, bigoted things that she said, because she didn't have those in her past. That's what Charlie Kirk is about. They want us to celebrate his life because he died the way he died. I'm not going to celebrate Charlie Kirk. Charlie Kirk was a malign influence in our nation. He was a bigot, a racist, a liar who spread conspiracy theories about the very founding of our country, that our founding documents, the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution of the United States, were word for word, letter for letter, based on Deuteronomy. All of this is ahistorical. It's a lie. It's a conspiracy theory. But it's meant to legitimize white Christian nationalism, to legitimize violating the First Amendment prohibition against Congress making a law respecting an establishment of religion. Watch Greg Gutfeld, the goblin-like little troll. I mean, look, it's one thing to be upset that you never cracked 5'2". Look, but you can't take it out on the rest of us, Greg Gutfeld. You can't take your feelings of insecurity and insufficiency and try to harm the rest of us because you don't feel good about yourself. Just like all of these conservative sickos. Watch him absolutely discount the assassination of a Democrat while trying to celebrate Charlie Kirk's legacy.
It wasn't school indoctrination. Carrie Lake went off on that. He was in an online apprenticeship program at Dixie Technical College, which I don't think was changed.
I would just note
I
the
understand,
family
but
said
they
he
didn't say
changed.
when he changed.
Yeah.
I'm just saying we need
They said
more
he articulated
information
his
before
hate
you
for Charlie
smear.
Kirk at a dinner
Before you
We don't need more information.
Really?
Yes, we
Okay.
don't need it. What is interesting here is why is only this happening on the left and not the right? That's all we need to know.
What about
There's
Vance
absolutely
Stroser?
no cognitive...
What about Melissa Hortman that we just
okay, you want to talk
talked
about Melissa Hortman? Did you know her name before it happened? None of us did. None of us were spending every single day talking about Mrs. Hortman. I never heard of her until after she died.
She doesn't matter?
Don't play that bullshit with me. You know what I'm saying is there was no demonization, amplification about that woman before she died. It was a specific crime against her by somebody who knew her. The same. Now you could bring up Josh Shapiro, but then you will not bring up, for example, that was a pro-Palestine person. So don't use your. What about this? The fact of the matter is the both sides argument not only doesn't fly, we don't care. We don't care about your both sides argument. That shit is dead.
Don't bring up that bullshit with me. It's what it is. You don't think she's important, Greg Gutfeld? You don't think she's worthy of veneration or remembrance because she was a Democrat. And the reason nobody talked about her every single day or whatever you said is because there aren't a giant list of hateful quotes that are attributed to Melissa Hortman, like there are Charlie Kirk. She didn't say the death penalty should be public, should be quick, should be televised. I think at a certain age, it's an initiation. At what age should you start to see public executions? She didn't say that happening all the time in urban America, prowling blacks go around for fun to go and target white people. That's a fact. She didn't say that. Charlie Kirk said that. That's why the controversial, white supremacist, hateful, bigoted remarks are talked about. Because they're outside of the norm, Greg Gutfeld, but you know this. You also know that it doesn't matter that I didn't know Melissa Hortman's name, a state representative in the state of Minnesota, but that has no bearing on whether or not her life had meaning or value or that her death was a tragedy. It doesn't matter that I didn't know who she was or her husband because her family knew her. Tina Smith, the senator from Minnesota, knew her. Tim Walz knew her. Many people of prominence knew her and her work and her heart. She was a good and decent person who did good and decent work, as opposed to Charlie Kirk, who said that the Democrat Party supports everything that God hates, who said, you might want to crack open that Bible of yours in a lesser referenced part of the same part of the scripture. It's in Leviticus 18 is that thou shalt not lie with another man and you shall be stoned to death. Just saying, so Mitch Rachel, you quote Leviticus, That's God's perfect law to stone gay people to death. This is who they celebrate. This is who they venerate. This is who they respect and love and martyr. They want to make this guy a hero. They want to make a racist, Christian nationalist bigot a role model for children. And they're beside themselves with rage that you would bring up the assassination, the same thing that happened to a Democrat. Don't give me that bullshit, he says, as he musters anger, I guess. What do you think? I invite you, unfortunately, if you're willing, to this conversation. We can have it in the comments below the video, wherever you're watching it. You can also call the voicemail line. Leave me a fewer than 3-minute voicemail. Please keep them brief. I got to listen to them, so it takes a big part of my day. You can call 714-576-4054. And of course, as always, you can email me daily@dollemore.com. One last call to please subscribe. It is free to do so. Like and follow the Facebook page, Dollemore Daily, over on Facebook. And if you are in a financial position to help financially, for $2 a month, you can become a channel member and help support and produce this content. Help me spread this message and the truth of independent media all across the internet. I would love for you to join. You can click the join button below this video on YouTube to become a channel member. You can do so over on Facebook to subscribe. And you can go to patreon.com/IDoubtIt podcast. $2 a month. All go toward supporting this work. I love and appreciate you very much. I will see you next time. Be genuine. Take care of one another.